I don't have kids. I never have. So when I found a baby monitor on my nightstand, I was more confused than scared. At first, anyway. It was just sitting there when I got home from work, right next to my alarm clock. Plugged in. Powered on, with a little green light glowing steadily. The weirdest part? I live alone. Completely alone. My apartment is a one-bedroom on the 3rd floor, and I'm pretty sure I'd notice if someone else moved in. My first thought was that I must have bought it myself and forgotten. You know how stress makes your brain short-circuit sometimes? Maybe I saw it on an online sale, thought it was a security camera, and clicked buy without thinking. It seemed plausible. I've done weirder things on autopilot after a long week. So, I just unplugged it, tossed it into the back of my closet on top of a box of old shoes, and forgot about it. Or at least, I tried to. I made dinner, watched some TV, and went to bed. It was exactly 2:06 a.m. when I woke up. I know the exact time because I looked at my clock, my eyes still blurry with sleep. What woke me up was the sound. A loud burst of static, like an old radio searching for a signal. It was coming from the closet. The sound cut out, and for a second, there was silence. Then, breathing. A slow, wet, raspy sound. Like someone with fluid in their lungs was breathing right into a microphone. My heart started to pick up speed. I sat up in bed, straining my ears, trying to convince myself it was just the pipes or the wind. But the closet door was slightly ajar, and I could see it. The faint green glow of the baby monitor's power light. It had turned itself back on. How? It wasn't plugged in. It didn't even have batteries in it, I checked. The static crackled again, and then a voice whispered out of the monitor's speaker. It was a child's voice, but warped, like it was being played through water. It said my name. Just my name. Clearly. Carefully. As if tasting each syllable. Every muscle in my body froze. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. The voice spoke again, a little louder this time, a little more impatient. "Why did you leave me in here?" it asked. My heart was pounding so hard against my ribs I thought it would wake the neighbors. It was a completely irrational thought, but it was the only one my panic-soaked brain could form. After what felt like an eternity, the little green light on the monitor flickered. A strange curiosity, maybe just a desperate need to understand what was happening, pushed me out of bed. My legs felt like jelly. I tiptoed over to the closet, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grab the monitor. As soon as my fingers touched the plastic, the small screen flickered to life. It showed a room I'd never seen before. It was small, dark, and the walls looked damp, stained with what I hoped was just mildew. The camera angle was low, like it had been placed on the floor, looking up. The perspective was all wrong. It made the small room feel like a huge, empty cavern. For a few seconds, it was just a still image of this depressing little space. Then, something moved in the far corner of the frame. It wasn't a person. Not really. It wasn't crawling, and it wasn't walking. It was dragging itself. Pulling its body across the floor with long, spindly arms, its legs trailing uselessly behind it. It was just a dark shape, a silhouette against the slightly less dark wall. A cold dread, colder than anything I've ever felt, washed over me. I wanted to drop the monitor, to smash it, but I was mesmerized. "I can hear you," the voice from the speaker whispered, much closer now. "I can hear your room." The sound of my own ragged breathing seemed to echo back at me from the device. And then I heard it. A floorboard creaked. Not on the monitor. Not from the tinny speaker. The sound came from behind me, in my own bedroom. My blood ran cold. I whipped my head around, staring into the darkness of my room. Nothing. There was nothing there. When I looked back at the screen, it had changed. The camera had zoomed in by itself. The thing on the floor was closer now. It slowly lifted its head, and I finally saw its face. It was impossibly pale, the color of bone. Its eyes were just dark pits, and its mouth. Its mouth opened wider than any human mouth should be able to. A silent, gaping hole in its white face. "I'm in the wrong room," it said, its voice no longer a whisper but a clear, conversational tone that was somehow even more terrifying. But not for long. That's when my paralysis broke. With a scream that I'm sure my neighbors actually did hear, I threw the monitor with all my strength against the far wall. It shattered into a dozen pieces. The screen went black. The voice stopped. Silence. Blessed, beautiful silence. I stood there, gasping for air, my whole body trembling. It was over. It had to be over. Then I heard it. A soft, electronic crackle. I followed the sound with my eyes. It came from inside my closet. From behind the door I had left ajar. And through the crack, I saw it. A small, green light. Turning on. I didn't even pack. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and my phone and I ran. I didn't stop running until I was in my car, peeling out of the parking lot. I drove to a friend's house, babbling some incoherent story about a gas leak. I don't live in that apartment anymore. I left everything. My clothes, my furniture, my entire life. I told the landlord I had a family emergency and had to move, forfeiting my security deposit. It was a small price to pay. For months, things were normal. I moved into a new place across town. I bought new furniture. I started to sleep through the night again. I told myself it was a hallucination, a waking nightmare brought on by exhaustion and stress. It was the only way I could function. I was starting to believe it, too. Until last night. I was asleep, and my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was 2:06 a.m. I picked it up, squinting at the screen. It was a push notification from an app one didn't recognize. An icon that looked like a simple outline of a house. The message below it made my heart stop. Baby monitor connected.